Hello, welcome to TubbyTalks episode 4 with me, Cammy, and Joseph. And today we're joined by Brian Long, who is a million things really, but he used to coach me and Joseph Judo a long, long time ago. But he's here today to talk to us today. And well, like I said, you do a million things, so maybe you can just tell us yourself what your kind of background is and you know what you're doing now.
Well, when I was younger, when I was still a player, I done judo primarily. Then I stopped going to judo, as everybody does when you get a job and girlfriend and all that, and then go back to it. But what I done while I wasn't doing judo, I actually went to backhold wrestling at the Highland Games, and because of the level I fought at judo at, I kind of took to the backhold level, the backhold wrestling quite easily. I ended up winning European title for the Gouren wrestling and the backhold. I can't remember what year, but it was probably about 20, 23, 24. And I voted kind of player of the tournament and stuff like that as well. So, but I won a Scottish titles, but I never really trained at backhold wrestling because just all the training I'd done at judo kind of put me in good stead for the same as you get doing the judo and going to the sumo. It put me in good stead for doing the backhold.
Yeah, well, I was just about to say, it's kind of, we'd obviously do sumo and it does translate really well. Like doing judo, you kind of naturally fit into it, and then Shirim as well in Korea, we naturally sort of slipped into it better because of the judo background. But
a lot of that was Christopher just showing me a few moves because he's much more adept at judo than I am. But
I did judo a lot longer. But you know, you used to be, could we call it a kingpin of judo, I guess, in the Central Belt anyway, because you used to own Pro Judo, didn't you?
Which was like a huge club. I think I had at one point about 700 members in my club, and some kids went to European Youth Olympics, European Cadet Championships, and a couple of members got to Commonwealth Games, but I took a stroke a couple of years ago, and then I basically had to sell the business on because I couldn't run it at that point. I couldn't even drive a car because my eyesight was bad and my balance and my coordination was quite. So I took a year out to try and recover, and then after I took a year out, I started back working again, teaching judo. So I'm basically having to build it. I'd never want to be as big again because now when I take classes, it's kind of got, I don't have anybody really working for me. Look, relying on somebody else to turn up at a centre to take a class, and if they're late or if they cause problems or cheat a parent or whatever they do wrong, I've got to then I'm getting a parent on the phone asking me what went wrong, and I've got to kind of no stick up to them, but try and explain what happened. So now, one of the reasons I had a stroke was because I had high blood pressure. So now life needs to be simple, just straightforward. I turn up, I take the class. If I'm busy, somebody can help me, but I don't want to pay somebody a full-time wage to go in and run lots of clubs. So if I get to maybe 250 to 300 kids, that'll be me. I'll be quite happy with that.
Is it solely you then that does this on your own now, your new one?
Well, I don't have any classes on that I don't take. Right. So I'm basically working 7 days a week just now, but I have classes that I take, but it's only maybe 2 or 3 hours a night I work. But I do some promotional stuff during the day in schools to say this is judo, do you like it? But I've also started doing Japanese Ju-jitsu as well. And judo originally came from Ju-jitsu, and there's a big political thing in Japan years ago why judo became so big because without trying to bore you,
it's not boring, don't worry.
Well, sometimes you feel as if bored people. I didn't actually know a lot of this until the man Bob Gossett teaching me, he's a ninth dan, told me all about it. So the way I've heard it is that the Americans tried to trade with Japan like years and years ago, and the Japanese basically pulled it and beat it. And Japan was going through a kind of change from the old military government to the new kind of westernised government, and they basically brought all the jiu-jitsu schools in, and only 3 turned up. And he basically banned jiu-jitsu being getting taught. And Jigoro Kano at the time made a style of jiu-jitsu called Judo, along with 3 of the other Japanese jiu-jitsu schools. But there's more the kind of softy schools, whereas there was some styles of Japanese jiu-jitsu was practiced, but it was trying to kill your opponent in the battlefield. So these 3 schools, and then you get left with judo was like throws and pins, but actually jiu-jitsu is so much more than actually what judo. Judo's a lot more of a sport. There's a rules to it. The first rule in jiu-jitsu is there's no rules.
Yeah.
So I go every week up to Perth to do a class, and I'm learning something new every week. So I find that at my age, I'm finding lots of new stuff, and I love going teaching jiu-jitsu. I've only got 1 class or 2 on a Wednesday night, and I go down to the club and I'm doing it, and it's all the kids that do judo basically come to my class, and they all love it. So it's something a bit different.
Yeah. So like you were saying, obviously it's Japanese jiu-jitsu. So are you like a very traditional approach to it then? Like, are you going for the kind of sporty version, or are you teaching like, you know, how it kind of was
Do you
designed?
tell them the history of it? Do you tell them why it's significant?
Well-
Do you tell them why it's different from judo, or
Well,
it's gonna be
the
totally
kids,
separate?
the kids that come along, I think they realise that it's more about self-defence. And we do a judo class, is with there's throws and pins, and you get them moving about, and so the core coaching part, they can see. They're not. I don't take young kids at 5 and 6. They need to be like at least 7, 8, because the younger they are, it's too hard. I personally think it's too hard for younger kids to take on. I think you get less injuries because in judo is more combative, where jiu-jitsu is not combative, as in you're not like trying to fight the guys every time you go on.
Yeah.
It's like you're practicing how to do this certain move. So I'm not jumping over trying to avoid it and landing my knee and busting my knee open, or twisting my ankle, or pulling a muscle, or using a lot of power. When you do Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, you're not using much power. It's more about technique and applying the locks, and you don't do lots of grapple on the ground. There's some grapple on the ground. There's not lots of it. It's like how to defend yourself against a punch. Somebody pulling your hair from the front, from behind, somebody strangling you from the front, somebody strangling you from behind, and how if you're lying on your back and your side, how to use your feet to actually knock the guy over. There's so much. I'm basically just the tip of the iceberg just now, because I've not actually been doing that long, but because I've been teaching judo for so long, I've got some transferable skills because I know how to coach. So I'm going through a kind of fast track processes now between the judo, well, not the judo, I'm on the whole jiu-jitsu front. I'm just go every week and I just learn every week. And if I didn't go up every week, I wouldn't be able to go back to my class and teach the kids because I wouldn't know anything. I'd just be making it up. Yeah. So I've got up to this guy who's one of the main guys in the world for teaching it, and he teaches me not just me. There's a few people in the class. So as I said, at my age, I find it quite exciting that I'm going up and I'm learning something new, and I'm getting back and I'm teaching it to kids that have started doing it as well. And I find that they're quite hungry for what I'm teaching as well. They're quite enjoying it.
So would you say that, I think my first question was going to be that, is judo definitely more sports related point scoring? You say jiu-jitsu teaches you to defend yourself in more realistic real life situations. Would you say judo also has that aspect, or is it much less than in jiu-jitsu?
I always thought before I done jiu-jitsu that judo was like a great thing for defending yourself, but actually you're doing jiu-jitsu, it's just opened my eyes up totally to realise that judo's a great sport. It's great to learn for any kid, but actually I feel like if somebody asked me to go in and do a self-defence course, would I go in my judo hat on or my jiu-jitsu hat on? I would go, for the amount of time I've been doing jiu-jitsu, I'd walk in my jiu-jitsu hat on to say this is what we're going to do, rather than doing the judo stuff.
Right, okay.
Is that a good answer?
No, yeah, that's perfect. Like, it's just really interesting because, as you say, obviously you started in judo, and knowing my brother, he constantly showed me judo stuff to tell me why that's useful. So just hearing that actually jiu-jitsu opened your eyes, and you're obviously a huge judo guy before jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So, but at the time, it was like, this is obviously useful, and I'm sure it still is useful to an extent. But just hearing, obviously, jiu-jitsu has that other element to it as well, and that you would choose now to put that hat on instead of judo. I'm sure, obviously, judo, I'm sure there's similar shared elements between both, as there is most martial arts, but this is why you're here, to kind of tell us more about everything that you know. So, well,
I'm not an expert on jiu-jitsu. I mean, I've only been doing it for like a year and a half. Right. But from what I've seen so far, it's like night and day compared to the way jiu-jitsu was and what they took out of it. When you're left with judo, it's like there's so much missing. And it was formed over like 500-600 years, and how the samurais trained and what they done, and they just took all that stuff out and they broke it down and they left with judo so you could teach it to kids in schools. So none of it was dangerous, but actually we practicing judo and they can ethos with competitions and all that. Jiu-jitsu is not what, like, I think you can get sports jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But the jiu-jitsu I do is more traditional. It's it's not got to do with punching, kicking, getting points or throwing people. It's basically just learning how to defend. I mean, there's even some stuff I've seen in some of the higher grades. Some instructor over from Spain doing a course, and he's basically learning how to tie people up with ropes and putting their arms up their back. So basically it must be in the middle of a battle somewhere in a field when the samurais are fighting each other, when there's no weapons left, no, they've got the rope, and he's decided to tie the guy's arms up, he's around his back. It looks like a bit of bondage to me. I was laughing. The guy's come over to Spain, he's tied up, he's rolling about the mat. Oh, he needs to stick an apple in his mouth. I don't know if you can put it on your podcast.
Oh no.
Well,
Top banner.
like you said, like Japanese Jiu-jitsu obviously was like, it's for warfare, or it was initially for that. So
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see what you think then about Brazilian Jiu-jitsu, because people say that's a lot more sporty, and people say it's kind of, obviously a lot of people love Brazilian Jiu-jitsu and a lot of MMA fighters do it and all that, but people sometimes also say that it's kind of became more of it's lost a lot of the aggression to it that it had in Japan. And there's actually some we were watching a video the other day of a guy who went, I'm going to go into a jiu-jitsu tournament to prove it doesn't work, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu tournament. And there's like a really hated move that a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu players do, where the fight starts and they just immediately go on the ground and wait for the guy to come over to them.
Is that the karate guy that done that?
The karate guy
Aye,
did
I've
that,
seen
but
that.
also just in general, like a lot of people hate it because they feel there's like a joke about Jiu-Jitsu people just lie on the ground and wait, and it would be useful. But the way you're describing Japanese Jiu-Jitsu is nothing like what that is.
No, I mean, it's totally, as far as I've been told, we're talking to my instructor who's quite, he knows his stuff. The people from the judo world went over to Japan, they went over to Brazil, sorry, to do judo. But actually, they were jiu-jitsu guys. They done jiu-jitsu, but they ended up doing judo. And they went over to Brazil and taught the Brazilians. And the Brazilians came up with their own style of judo and called it jiu-jitsu, which more like primarily bases groundwork. And they're it's still evolving. They're adding things in. But I think they're doing lots more self-defense now. Like, wait, if you get your black belt, I was talking to somebody's training his black belt, and he's telling me there's so much self-defense stuff he's got to do. Like, they're doing shoulder locks, and I don't know actually what else they're doing, but I think it's still changing. It's like your Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, then you judo, and then you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's the kind of way it went. Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has got nothing to do with Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. It's went that way. It's funneled down the way.
So it's just basically they share a name, but it's not really the same thing.
No,
then?
it's nothing like it.
I think a lot of people don't actually realise that Japanese Jiu-Jitsu is a thing in itself, because obviously we say Jiu-Jitsu, we watch UFC, people say BJJ on
That's
this
right,
guy's
aye,
revving, you know, and they immediately think that is what Jiu-Jitsu is.
Yeah,
Interestingly enough, actually, you're saying that kind of came after even Judo, never mind the original samurai Jiu-Jitsu style. So I think it's good for a lot of people to actually realise it's a totally different thing.
And also as well with the Jiu-Jitsu, when I don't have time to do it, but they actually involve weapons as well, because I think originally the Japanese schools, they learned how to use a sword, and they've actually never used a sword all the time, because if they've got a sword and it's sharpened and they start fighting with it, it becomes blunt. So it's like big sticks they use, because then like karate comes from Jiu-Jitsu, aikido comes from Jiu-Jitsu, judo comes, and it all started with Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and then it all branched off. Even the aikido guys, they do some stuff, but it's all Jiu-Jitsu stuff. They even tell, I used to go to an aikido class down in Bearsden for probably about 6 months, and the instructor, I think he was a ninth dan, he was saying to me, it all started with Jiu-Jitsu. That's everything stemmed from there. And some schools were more traditional than others.
It's interesting you brought up Aikido, because I hadn't even really thought about that, but Aikido's another one where a lot of people see Aikido as a bit of a fakey-dakey martial art, basically, because there's a lot of demonstrations of people doing daft stuff, like a guy will run over and he'll flip a guy with his finger or something, or it's like Steven Seagal and all that, of like they do it in movies and that. And so there's a bit of another thought process towards Aikido of, it's a lot of rubbish kind of thing. But do you think that's true then, or do you think Aikido's also a
To be honest with you, I've not done enough Aikido, but I just know when I went to Aikido, it's very, very technical. It's not like it's not like I feel in this country there's lots of kids do judo, and parents just throw their kids into it and do 2 or 3 games a year and everybody's all happy again. But seeing Aikido, I just feel totally as if you couldn't. I don't think you could have thousands upon thousands of kids doing Aikido, because they would get bored. It's far. I personally think it's far too technical. The stuff they do, the wrist locks, the stuff with the sword, the stuff is it the Joe they call it? They use that as well. All that stuff. I just think it's pretty hard. And I think you'd need to dedicate a lot of time in your life to learn it.
Yeah, so it requires a lot more commitment then to learn it properly.
Whether it's as effective, I don't know. I'm not going to. I don't know either way if it's good or it's bad. Yeah. So I'm not going to criticise them. All I know is the guys that taught me were very, very knowledgeable.
Well, I mean, I don't want to speak bad about any martial art either, but that's why, because I've always wondered, like, there's a lot of martial arts, like we were saying, aikido, Brazilian Jiu-jitsu, that people do slag off a lot, or they make fun of it because they say it's not proper, whatever. But I've never done any of them, most of them, so, I wouldn't actually know.
Well, it's interesting to hear that it's a technical, really technical, and you'd need to dedicate a lot of time.
No, I personally feel you would need to dedicate a lot of time to it.
Just because obviously on the videos, some of them, if it's a meme video or whatever, it will just be a person. It looks like they're just controlling with thin air. And so actually hearing from someone who's experienced it and actually done it, it's really interesting to hear. You'd have to dedicate loads of time. It's just as technical as other martial arts.
I do think when you watch some of these videos of, I'm not the names, and you see, I mean, there's some martial arts you see out there where you've got instructors like cult. It's like people touch them and like 3 guys fall down. They fly back through there. There's some sort of invisible force that throws them to the floor, and it's like there's some. It's like you see these guys. It's like the Shaolin monk. It's like somebody that does Tai Chi is going to fight an MMA fighter, and they've got to pull the MMA guy off him because the guy he's an absolute hiding. He's going, I'm going to do a bit of Tai Chi, and next it's bang, and the guy hits the floor. It's quite funny.
Those videos are always quite funny because it just shows that. Like these people,
there's a lot of fake stuff. A lot of people do a lot of crap.
But sadly, that's all the stuff that usually gets viewed the most because it's like very controversial and different, and it sadly brings a lot of like martial arts like down, in my opinion, because people see that and then just go, "Oh, that's what it all is. It's all fake nonsense and all this stuff."
Have you ever seen the lad that is it Master Ken? He does the he takes the absolute mickey out of martial arts. He's got a red suit on. And he's like, that's how they take the knife attack. The guy gets a knife and he goes like, just catch it in your throat.
Yeah.
And
there's some brilliant comedians that have come from this
stuff. Then he just takes the mickey out of everything. And it's like, you attack the person in between the legs and whatever he's doing, it's just absolutely comical. I think it's so funny.
There's some that are genuinely like really funny that have found a good balance between the comedy of it, but there are so many like that you brought up earlier where it's just they'll tap a guy on the shoulder and that's it, he's jumped across the room. It's just stuff like that I find
I touch you, I go like that, I touch you. And you don't move, but you fly back. Why is that?
Stuff like, it's all the chakra stuff.
Some sort of electricity beam through your body, or laser, and it's told to do that.
It's all the chakra fighting and stuff like that is what they all talk about, and crystals with that stuff as well. It's just a bit daft, in my opinion.
The Master Ken, he's essentially making fun of the people making fun of it as well. That's what makes it funny. So.
I mean, the best way to block a punch is with your head, kind of thing that some people say as well. But that's funny. I've never actually heard of that guy. But
you should Google it. You should Google it. It's hysterical.
Catching a knife with your throat or the throat with your knife. I didn't. Yeah, but well. How do you then think that? Obviously, you mentioned you did Scottish backhold wrestling, and obviously you've won a European silver medal and wrestled at the tournament in it. And what's the Spanish one or the French one?
The French one's called Gouren wrestling.
Gouren wrestling.
No, Gouren. Gouren.
Gouren wrestling, right? Okay. Not urine wrestling.
No, Gouren is practiced in Brittany. It's their cultural style of wrestling.
Yeah. It's very similar to backhold wrestling, isn't it?
No, backhold wrestling, you put your 2 hands together like that. Yeah. One hand goes on the shoulder, one hand over. In Gouren wrestling, it's actually like a scimitar you wear. And you wear a pair of shorts and you fight on sawdust in a marketplace outside in a wee village in France, because that's where it was all held. And the winner wins a lamb. You get a lamb. I don't know how I was going to get that across the ferry.
Yeah.
Basically, you win a lamb. Well, that's the way it's supposed to be. But the rules are they're quite interesting. Like, there's no groundwork, and you throw your opponent to the floor, but it doesn't matter how hard you throw them. And if somebody goes to throw you and you stick your hand out to stop yourself going over, you get like an equivalent of a Zari against you. And you do that twice, you're out. So it's a bit of safety. So if somebody goes to throw me and I put my hand out on the ground, I get a score against me because I've stopped myself from rolling on my back.
Yeah.
So they encourage you not to throw people that hard. But because I came from a judo background and I was throwing people when I went across to France the first time, I was putting them through the ground on the sawdust outside and top of the concrete. Because I was just used to like, and just pulling them over.
Everyone's like, this is a nice cultural event.
And I was just smashing folks.
Some Scottish guy comes over and absolute battles people. Well, that's interesting that you get like a point against you if you put your hand on the floor, but you're not out, because obviously we do sumo wrestling, and if you do that, you're out. Like,
I touch the ground.
Touches, that's you finished. But...
The only thing you're allowed to do, the only thing that can touch the ground in sumo is your feet. That's it. And the sole of your feet, basically. Yeah, if you're out, obviously there's the ring. If you go out, then you're out. But
I play sumo wrestling quite a lot with the kids in the class. See, at the end for the game, I play like pirate ship game and I play land and sea and sumo wrestling. Sometimes I play with the younger ones, they quite enjoy it. Well, I basically line them up and say, right, smallest goes up first and the winner stays on. And maybe the wee guy can end up beating everything, so he's quite happy with that.
I remember doing it when I did judo, and I did it in Bishop Briggs with Stuart for a bit. Right. I remember we used to do sumo at the end sometimes with that, where we just tie the judo belts and you do it. It's obviously not sumo wrestling, but it is the same kind of thing you're doing.
What I do is I just get one mat, which is 2 meters one, to save me tying the belts and kids standing on it and the belt just getting kicked out. And there's got one mat said, right, you at that side, you at the side, start with your legs, fist down, east knee sand, and go. And it's quite good as well because some of the kids play rugby and if they hesitate and they go to do rugby tackle, they get wiped it. But in this sumo wrestling, you go boom, 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 and go right for it.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite good to train them to go for it right away because some kids are quick off the block and the other ones are still going 1, 2, 3 and they're getting there before they've done it. The guy's pushing them back.
I remember doing it and it was so weird because when I actually transitioned to actual sumo wrestling is far more technical than I thought it was, and there's far more to it because obviously in my head I was like, I did a wee bit of judo, but we were kind of just pushing a lot in those things. But there's so much in sumo wrestling. Like you could do a judo move in sumo wrestling, it'd be totally legal if you wanted, and people do it often. There's like in the class the other day actually there was 2 guys who were at the very edge of the ring. And they had their one tried to like sweep with the other leg, and both of them like legs went in there, and they actually both did a front flip at the same time and landed on the back, and it was almost like a Uchimata, I think you would call it. And judo one went over, but they both did it, so that it was really interesting. But do you think would you ever try sumo wrestling then, since you've done all these other things?
At my age,
well, you're doing jiu-jitsu, you know.
I know, but my balance is not the same as my coordination stuff, so. I've problems sometimes going through a swing door, getting the door open, so rather, or even walking down the street, walking them downstairs. I've got a weakness in my legs, and so I don't think it's time for my life to start doing sumo wrestling. I think I might end up in the wheelchair, never mind be able to walk.
Well, I mean, there was actually, the oldest guy we had when we started was 51 or something.
He's not had a stroke and had cancer.
I was going to say though, but he was also like 6'5" and 165 odd kilos, so... He wasn't getting thrown about.
I'm not far away though.
He wasn't getting thrown about. No, he was obviously big. But no, it's just, you know, it's interesting. It is such an interesting sport compared to what it used to be.
And what about Kabaddi? Have you ever done that?
Only in judo at the end of classes again. There was a lot of things.
Because I was actually talking to somebody in Gouren Hill. It was when I was still with Pro Judo, and the lad was talking to me about, because a lot of adults in my class, and some were from Iraq. And they were very good standard judo, and I think Kabaddi's played a lot over countries like India and Iraq and all that. And he was wanting me to bring some of the guys down and have a Kabaddi team to actually promote their sport, because he reckons he could have pulled some of the judo guys out, especially in Gouren Hill. There's a lot of kind of like people like not emigrating but living there, kind of what's I'm trying to be politically correct here. Like maybe they don't have is it a visa for living here yet. There's a lot of people from Eastern Europe and that across, so a lot of them have actually been wrestlers and that as well, so they might be quite capable. So it's kind of, you never know who you're going to find. There's one of the girls that comes to my club just now, she's not been through well, she's in a nurse now. And she went to the Commonwealth Games for Cameroon, and she helps me, she comes along with her daughter sometimes on Saturday morning and helps out. She went to the Commonwealth Games, she's a great standard, but she's only here because I think she came to do the judo competition to the Commonwealth Games and never went home. She just ended up staying here and marrying somebody.
Well, fair enough.
Aye.
You know, we're talking about Commonwealth Games. You work with some people, don't you, or I don't know, have you trained people who have won medals in Commonwealth Games, or do you work with them currently? Because I know there's some connection.
No, so, like, Louise and Kimberly Renix, Louise is doing a bit of work for me, so I sponsored the girls while they're at the games, and they kind of fought for my club and their dad's club, so I never actually taught them, but they were kind of like doing some work with me, and they were kind of like training at some of the sessions and stuff like that, so I can't accredit myself for doing anything to them, but David Ferguson and Rachel Tytler, they went to the Commonwealth Games, and was it Birmingham?
What year was it?
No, just that, the Commonwealth Games, it was just like 2 years ago.
I think it might have been Birmingham, yeah, or I don't know if Birmingham was the next
one. So Rachel got a bronze medal, David never medal that one, but I taught them up till they were about 16, and then when they were 16 they went to away to train the Gouren body through Nathal. So at that age, I'm not saying I never had any contact with them, but the kids get taken away from you to go and train. It's kind of like a finishing show. You need to go in there and train with better athletes, because I never had all those athletes for them to train me at my club. So I had basically, it came to a point where there was a talent development programme in Scotland, and there was 10 kids in it, and 5 were in Scotland and 5 were from my club. And basically they had to through to Edinburgh and train through there and actually leave their club.
Yeah.
So but you kind of basically produce them, you get them to a certain level, and then get taken away from you. And then you've got to bring the next crop up and they get taken away from you. That's going to make it worse. But I just sold pro judo just before because I had a stroke. And that year, Rachel went on and she won a bronze medal at the Commonwealth Games. So I would accredit me getting her because she started with judo with me and I was taken up and doing the country tournaments until she was about 16.
Yeah.
And then after that, then she gets taken over by the government body and they look after her.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is absolutely a credit.
So it's like, I was producing people for grassroots, getting up to a certain level and then they get taken off you.
Yeah, you got them into the sport, you got them wanting
that's
more,
the hard bit.
That's
the next bit's the easy bit. The hard bit's the harder bit.
Getting them to commit and stay in the sport when they're young is the hard bit, like you're saying. And without you doing that, they would never have done it.
I was saying to you before we started, like how I started judo, I started taekwondo and all these different clubs, and I quit quite easily. But that, actually, because kids do that. Kids kind of start something and then go, "Oh, I don't want to do this anymore, Mum." Or
I think kids at a young age go and try lots of different things until they find something they love, and they start doing that. And it's hard to it's easy to take kids into join your club between the ages of 5 and 12. See, after 12, they're away out seeing their girlfriend, they're out drinking beer with their mates, or they're playing football, but they've found their sport that they do.
Yeah.
So that it's hard to get high school kids into do sport. But see, in the primary schools, that's why I never go into high school do tasers. It's always primary schools, so that's when you can attract them. Oh, I like that, can I go and do that, Mum? But never at second school, it's totally different.
Right, yeah, because people's attitudes.
And then it's like, not that their mum and dads take them anymore. It's like, I want to go there, or just go down your pals in. But see, if they're 5, you're not going to walk down to Bishop Briggs, the main street, down to the sports centre. Your mum and dad's going to take you into and take you in the car and drop you off and pick you back up again.
Yeah. So, when did you actually start judo then, or any martial arts? Like, what age did you start getting into it? Was it primary or?
I think I started in the Hub C Centre in Clydebank when I was about 10 because my uncle, who's passed away now, he shared a flat with the coach called Duncan Hewson, and because of that, I went up with my 2 brothers and we started doing judo for the Hub many years ago. And at the same time we done judo, there was a wrestling club next to it, a freestyle wrestling club. There was guys playing badminton, there's guys doing circuit training, there was guys doing weightlifting, the place was absolutely mobbed. This is before the days of you had big sports centres, like the Titan down Clydebank. Because I remember later on, after starting doing judo, we used to go up to the Allender and go swimming, and that was a big thing. You felt it was a big away today. I was only going to my guy, I was in Clydebank, but you felt your coach was taking you up. We used to go up there and go swimming. And after we went swimming, we used to go down to the wrestling club with my guy and do a bit of freestyle wrestling, because that was helping our judo.
Yeah. So, do you think then if you're doing multiple kind of disciplines, then it will be helpful? Do you think, say for example, we're doing sumo, do you think, because one of the guys in our class has now started doing a little thing at the end where he teaches a bit of grappling, Greco, freestyle wrestling, do you think that is beneficial, or do you think it's even the opposite, it's actually detrimental, trying to learn multiple things at once? Or what do you say? Is it a balance? Like,
I don't really know the ins and outs of sumo wrestling and what you guys actually do. I can
just in general, though, like.
No, I think when you're young, if you're doing judo, all you're doing is judo 5 nights a week when you're 5 up to the age of 25. I don't think it's a good thing. If you're going to play football, you learn how to dodge and weave and pass the ball about and enjoy what you're doing and being with other people. If you're doing too much of one thing, then you're going to get bored and you're going to get burned out. By the time you get to 15, you're like, I'm too late, I don't want to do this anymore. But if you're doing lots of different things, you might find something you like even better and be better for you, rather than just sticking to one. There's some dad taking their kids to training about 5 nights a week, and it's like, oh, Dad, I need to go tonight. I need to go. And then they're forcing them to go. Rather than that, can I go to judo tonight?
Yeah.
If it's just 1 night a week, but see, if it's 5 nights a week, it's like, if they're a certain age and they're playing at a certain level, they get a bit older, but it's different. But if they're only young, it's like...
if it's recreational or even like young athletes that are really competitive, you're still not like competing at massive tournaments, for most things. But it's interesting for Clan Sumo Scotland, which is like the name of sort of the organisation in Scotland, almost every single person has a background in something else before they've done sumo. So obviously we've got judo, strongman for all of us, there's freestyle wrestlers, karate people, there's almost all of them have something before they did sumo. And so I feel like judo is not like that, but maybe you tell me wrong. I feel like a lot of people start with judo when they're younger, and then they start with things like karate when they're younger, but there's some martial arts that maybe things like sumo and even backcode wrestling and all that, I feel like that's kind of things you wouldn't really start when you were young. It's kind of what you would lead into almost because it's so different, but I don't know if maybe you think otherwise.
I mean, when I used to have pro judo, when I wonder, even now the club I've got now, I don't have as many young kids, but there used to be a lot of kids that were underweight.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe say I had 700 kids in the club, 200 of them were underweight. So there was still quite a lot of kids doing it, but in general in the population, in the whole of, you think like Glasgow and Eastern Marks and Renfrewshire and East, 200 kids on dates, no logs. There's actually thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of kids of that age. So it's like, I don't know what the proportion of the population would be, but it's not the same way as it will. See, like gymnastics.
Yeah.
Near enough everyone does gymnastics at one point, but their retention rate must be terrible. But gymnasts want to be judo players, great at football. It's like kind of one of the kind of fundamental sports. It's like learning how to ride a bike or cycle. It's like a core sport, isn't it? It's like, so should judo be that? Should cycling be that? Should swimming be that? You need to learn how to swim, don't you?
Yeah.
So I think
lifeguard?
is it a life? It should be like, I think everyone should do some sort of combative sport, cycling, swimming, what other ones do we say? These kind of core things you need to learn as a kid.
Yeah, I think there's maybe, I slightly biased, I suppose, think strongman is pretty much the best sort of thing you can do to build a strength foundation.
Not as a child.
I know as a child.
Well, not as a young child, but as a sort of 15, 16-year-old, you don't need to go really heavy.
That's they're near an adult then.
Yeah. I think that as soon as they hit that age, you should be probably doing something like that if you're an athlete and you want to get stronger, whatever, obviously. But even children, a lot of children kind of have a natural strength, I suppose, but we started off as basketball players. And I think I genuinely kind of got pretty strong through just doing basketball before I touched a weight or anything. And then obviously, I was doing judo at the same time, but I feel like when I started doing basketball, it kind of made them, they both kind of made each other better, even though they're completely different sports. Because my fitness that I was getting from basketball and the jumping and all, it was totally different from the type you're getting for judo. And although judo won't improve your skill in basketball, and basketball won't improve your skill in judo and all that, even just getting your body to use different types of muscles in different ways, I think always just makes, it makes
I think
it
the more different sports a kid can do when they're younger, the better. If they just go to one sport, I think they've got to be well rounded.
Yeah.
Because like saying they're 10, you don't have any world class athletes at 10. No, I think they've done a study in Australia years ago when they took up the Olympic Games, and I heard this man talking on Facebook, and he was saying his job was to go around the country and actually try and find girls that were kids that were world class athletes at 10, but actually see at 10 they might end up doing this sport 6 months time because they're fed up with it, or they might just be went through maturity a bit sooner than somebody else.
Yeah.
So because that happens in judo, you get some boys that go through maturity or puberty, and then this wee boy goes to tournaments. I've seen it. This one, boy, I'll not mention his name of the club. He was going to tournaments, he was getting beat all the time because all the other boys went through puberty, he hadn't done it yet. But see, when he went through puberty, he started beating them all again. But they went through a space for a year, and it wasn't even a fight. Because if he was like that, and he was just this wee skinny boy, and one summer, after the summer, he ended up with a square jaw and he had a six pack, and his voice changed.
Yeah.
Are you sure it wasn't somebody else that came? Like?
No. I mean, it's some of these guys,
So would you say then as well that when you were doing judo, or even when you coached judo or backcode wrestling, anything when you were competing or you were coaching competitive athletes, did you really ever implement sort of strength and conditioning training, or did you encourage it, or were you more just like, we'll focus on the sport specific stuff? Like,
no, when I had my guys, not my first group of guys, but when I was at the Palace of Arts, that used to be the Institute of Sport used to be there, and then I used to the guys come in doing judo, but I had the guys in doing some, like, with strength and conditioning coach doing some work as well, and some of them were going on to actually, one of the boys stopped doing judo, and they could actually at the point where the guys was like to him, look, you could actually be a really good weightlifter here, because he was squatting some amount of weight, because I was training 2 or 3 times a week doing the weights, and I had somebody for the Institute of Sport was actually taking it as well, but I was actually using my money to actually subsidise that, because I was actually keen to actually get the kids to a standard. But the best boy I had in the club, he never turned up for the sessions. He was too busy. He was winning everything. She felt as if he didn't have to work hard.
Yeah.
The other guys were all, and they're all working hard as well. But that's the kind of thing. when a kid is working hard, if they're not working hard like that, if they're going and winning things, they might think, well, I don't have to go and train because I'm winning it anyway. But see the guy's number 2 or number 3, he might think, well, I've got to chase the pack, and what have I got to do to get better? Well, if I go and do this weights, I might get a bit stronger, and I might be able to beat him. So it's a bit of kind of, it's all about that kind of, is it, growth mindset?
Yeah, growth mindset.
The kids, not all kids think like that. Some kids think, I'll never beat him, I'll never be better.
Yeah.
But all cases, you've got to train, you've got to turn up, you've got to be there, and things do change, do time. One kid's winning one day, next day they're not winning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, say we like professional athletes and all that, barely ever will you get somebody winning everything every single year for more than... Sometimes you get a few people might win like 4 or 5 things in a row, whatever, but 99% of sports, there's not just one guy or woman just smashing everybody every single tournament forever until he retires, So it's the same with kids, obviously, you in a year it'll be totally different. It depends on what you're doing, how you're training, how they're training. People can get injured and all that, whatever's going on. But I was going to ask you then as well, we were going to say, we'll go around, actually, we'll go in terms of, we'll ask in terms of doing or whatever as well, but in terms of watching first, what's your favourite martial art, would you say, to watch? I'll go to you first.
Favourite martial art to watch?
Too slow. No.
That was a bit brutal. I mean, currently it would probably just be sumo, just because that's what we're doing, and it's really like amazing to watch like how far you can really take things, especially watching guys of that size, like, and how they maneuver. It's like quite an incredible thing to just currently watch. So that's a bit biased, but it's my current favourite thing.
Well, no, I mean, you used to do karate as well, didn't you, a while ago? So, I mean, sumo it used to be really popular in the 90s and that here because it was shown on TV and that, but it isn't anymore. But yeah, sumo's a good one. I don't know, I guess currently I'd maybe say sumo as well, sumo wrestling, because it's new to me, so it's kind of exciting. But I also do really like watching judo, and I really like watching boxing as well.
That's a really popular one.
Boxing is really popular, yeah, but like, just in terms of watching, I wouldn't ever do boxing in a million years, but I would, I like watching it as well, but probably sumo wrestling right now is my favourite because it's so new and, it's something like that. What about you?
Well, I would definitely say Kung Fu and Muay Thai and a lot of Chinese martial arts in general. I just think they're really interesting to watch. And no, we've not, but I'm just saying, I think to watch, absolutely love watching Jackie Chan and films, other Chinese actual, athletes and stuff. Yeah, so I'm not obviously watching them fight each other and just watching them actually do the patterns and stuff. I love that. I also love watching sumo because I know Scott will want me to say that. No, but I genuinely do. It's obviously new to us and it's really interesting watching the huge guys batter each other. And I actually quite like watching Taekwondo as well in the Olympics because I just love how high they can get their legs up in the air and how I used to get my legs up that high as well, but I can't get it anymore. There's no way.
Well, fair enough. Ryan? Yeah. Well, I mean, I was going to say...
Well, the favourite thing I watched recently is Enter the Dragon at the cinema. It was the 50th anniversary. I went to watch it and it was just like, it was brilliant. It actually looking at what he's doing, it's very entertaining. Where it's actually going to work in real life, but it was actually quite exciting to watch. It's great. And I mean, I do like watching Judo. I watch clips in YouTube, on Facebook all the time. And it's always evolving, it's always changing what people are doing, and it's good watching the guys, like, I don't know who half of them are, but it's good watching clips and you see wee boys in Uzbekistan doing some sort of saltos and some sort of throws.
Yeah.
And they're like, my God, how you kind of think, how am I ever going to get the kids in my club to that level? That's what you think. You go like, oh my God, look at them doing that throw there. You think it's just another world, isn't it?
Well, it's a tough task, but I mean, I'm sure one of them one day might get there.
Maybe.
I mean, without people like you, that's not going to happen. So,
well, it's hard in this country to produce MD that's going to be. I know Britain's had a few world medalists because, like, I think in France there's like 1 million people doing judo, but in Britain there's only about 50,000. And see, I've been to Japan once, and then I was there at the Kodokan. I was there like most nights, and then the kids were training every night, and the session was about 2.5 hours. A kid may go to judo here like twice a week for an hour and a half at a time.
Yeah.
They're doing 3 hours a week. And a wee boy in Japan looks to me, they're doing judo 4 nights a week, and they're doing it 2 hours at a time. They're doing nearly 3 times the amount of training. And that's, if you do that for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, that's huge.
Yeah.
The amount of time. I mean, you go to sports centres here, and they're that expensive to hire the halls. Like, see at the Scots and Luxury Centre, if I was to put on like another 2 hours of judo, it cost me another £2,000 a year to hire it. And they're turning and say to parents, you need to pay double on it because I've hired the whole for next 2 years to do
Yeah.
that. They're not paying any money.
I know.
It's all about what's the way the government set up here. They're looking to make money all the time for any. It's like how much money can they get off you?
Yeah.
I know they've got to pay the bills. Everything's got to break even, but it's like you've got to put. I feel like you've got to put some money into the sport.
100%. I think that there's a lot of sports in Scotland and the UK in general that they just don't get any funding compared to other countries. Like you said, people in Japan, the judokas in Japan will be getting a lot more money into judo than over here, and so the accessibility of sort of mainly Asian martial arts, but most martial arts, I would say, is probably not as good in the UK as it is in most places even.
One of the boys at my judo club, or used to be in my club, David Ferguson, he was actually fighting in the Bundesliga and he was getting paid £300 a fight, so they were flying him over, paying his accommodation, giving all his food, paying him £300 just to be in.
Yeah.
And he fought somebody, got a wee bit more money, but that was the fight for and they were sponsored by it's like Mercedes-Benz and big German companies who sponsor the team. And there's divisions, there's like first division, second division, third. There's the same in Japan as well. And when they Kodokan, there's actually guys in the mat, and they're all sponsored by Mitsubishi, and it's all company teams.
Yeah.
And they're paying them. I don't know how much they get, but they're all sponsored by them.
Yeah, sponsorship's a big thing. Yeah, sponsorship is like
it's very little here.
It's very little here. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I would say that does boil down to the kind of British culture of everything's like the only sport that people want to watch or do is football. And that's where all like funding for most schools go. Like our high school was specifically funded by Celtic, and it's like that's the only thing you'd learn in PE is either football or running. Basically, was all you'd ever do. I actually ended up starting my own weightlifting club in the school because I hate both of those things.
Right.
And
it's just, but I think that's why there's such a massive lack in like martial arts interests from so many young kids because the only thing that gets crammed down is football.
There's one of the things. The average man, if they want to play football and they pay taxes, where's the money go? It shouldn't go to sumo or judo. It should go into what they want to do. So it's kind of only right that I'm not saying it is right. I think there should be other opportunities to do different sports. But if your Joe Public loves football and they're paying taxes, the money shouldn't go away and get spent in sumo wrestling or judo. It should get spent in football. I think when active schools and all that do work, it shouldn't just be the main sports all the time. I think they've got to try and introduce other sports to give everybody a chance. But I know what you mean, sometimes you feel as if it's just one sport, it's football or boxing.
Yeah, I feel like it just sort of defaults to them, and then like say like grassroots level with younger kids and that, a lot of people probably would get any other things like judo or sumo or kung fu or like anything, even other things like basketball and all that, if they were caught at a young enough age and active schools and that proactively actually try to recruit them for these sports, and they'd probably like them better, or they'd probably get better athletes and things like that. But a lot of them don't get that, and so they just drop into football because that's what everybody's doing, or rugby or whatever. Or their pals go, yeah. Or it's even hard as well because Scotland, not the UK I guess, although it still is kind of, but Scotland particularly has only got 5 million people. Most of them are people who aren't interested in sports. So you've not got a massive pool of athletes compared to, what do you call it, like...
What are you saying about Scottish?
No, I don't mean they're not interested in it, I just mean like...
Just pie eaters.
Yeah. Pie eaters. You've got people who are in their 80s and their 70s who aren't going to be doing it. Then you've got people that are more interested in other things, or they really like sport but they don't have time to commit to it or whatever, or they just like watching it. But then you've got a place like China has got 1.8 billion people or whatever, 1.5 billion. Even if 500 million of them, which is 100 times the population of Scotland, aren't interested, there's still 1 billion left that might be interested. So population-wise, we're maybe at a slight disadvantage as well, just in terms of there's not as much people to get interested.
But I think
in these
as well,
things.
it's like it's all about how many hours a week you work. If you've got a job and you work, it's like 40 hours a week, so you get up in the morning at 7, you go to your job and you come at 7 at night. The last thing you want to do is maybe go to the gym and go and do a bit of training. I know you've still got time to do it, but if you'd more time off work, maybe people go training more, or maybe better facilities. It's like you see schools and sports centres are lying empty during the day. What for the schools use as sports centres? I know there's some sort of agreements in place and they're maybe building certain campuses now, but I think if they built the schools onto the sports centres and the schools used it during the day and then the campus opened up at night to the public, the facilities would be a lot better. They wouldn't need as much money, but that's all back to planning like centuries ago, isn't it? No centuries, like maybe 10, 20 years ago.
Well, I mean, actually, that's kind of weird you say that. When we were in Korea doing the Shirim's massive in Korea, which is the Korean traditional wrestling, but we were training, when we did the actual competition, it was in this big, massive sports centre, there was like hundreds of like crowd, whatever, but when we were just doing the training, because we were there for like 2 weeks, we did a bit of training before, obviously, it was in a primary school, like a primary school PE hall, but it wasn't like a primary school PE all over here where it's like a tiny wee like floor and like there's just hundreds of random junk about. It was like a massive proper arena that was just as good as the professional sports hall we were using. It just wasn't quite as big, but there was still loads of seats. The actual floor for the sand pit that you do Shirim on was like the exact same almost as the professional level. And they say, oh yeah, this is a primary school, so the primary school won't use it, but also the professional wrestlers also use this at night. And so it's exactly what you were saying. The schools share it with the pros basically, so they can both train at the same time.
I've taken my kids before the store project across to a town called Lund, and it's in Sweden, and they hold a big competition, a big camp like every year, and they basically take over a school, and you go into school and you sleep on an airbed or whatever in a big gymnasium or a classroom. And then they put food on, and you buy a ticket for food, and all the cafeteria staff are in, and you basically stay in there. So you can imagine it here, like before you go to Scotland Road, and it's basically taken over. There's hundreds of people living in it over a week, and it's either you stay in the school, you sleep there on the floor, or if you've got a bit more money, you can stay in a hotel, or if you've got a bit more money, you can stay in a nicer hotel. So you've got your different options. But this thing's run, and when you're there, it's like you get free public transport to get if you want to go. You get the swimming for free. So the town itself must think, well, we've got to put this on, help this tournament run. And the judo club that's there must make money off this tournament every year, to put money in the bank to help them fund their club and what they do through the whole year. So it's a great camp every year, and they bring lots of different countries to come along there, and lots of different people win maybe medals at the Olympics and stuff like that come along, and they kind of pass it on to the kids, and it's a great atmosphere. And the kids in my clubs have loved going to it. But if you do something like that, you'd be great into it.
Yeah, I mean, it would be brilliant. It would encourage a lot of people to come along. It would also add a lot of social aspects to it. It would make it less intimidating, and because martial arts and stuff like that would be intimidating, but a lot of sports in general. But yeah,
I think see, being a kid, a lot of them don't want to go because they're scared. They don't want to see all these big martial art judo guys, but even when I was small, I was quite reluctant to go to judo or even taekwondo or whatever, because I was like, I'm just a wee guy. I was like, I don't want to get beat up by all these guys. But once you go, you realise it's just a club. It's just for fun.
Yeah.
Everyone enjoys it. They learn stuff. They learn how to do martial arts, defend themselves.
But I think one of the things that I've seen today, I was doing a taster up in Torrance Primary School today, and I was doing a taster for Ju-jitsu, and I was telling the kids is somebody's got to walk through that door and believe that they walk in, they're not going to get picked on, they're not going to get bullied, they're not going to get slapped about. Everyone's safe walking here. So if you have got any inclination that you're going to do anything that you shouldn't be doing, just sit at the side, because we've not got time for this. I've got to make sure that everybody's feeling safe walking through that door, and if they don't do it, I wouldn't go to training if I thought somebody was going to smack me in the face every time I went.
Yeah.
So they've got to feel safe in the environment they come into.
Yeah, no, it's just an intimidating thing, I suppose. It's a misconception about martial arts. It's that everyone is a fighter, everyone's aggressive, but actually, quite often it's the opposite of that. They're there for
the biggest challenge is getting them in through the front door, and actually hiding in the lobby for their mum and dad. They don't either. They're dragging them in there. Getting there will be good for you. I think there's actually dojos in Japan and universities where kids are sent there with their parents because they're supposed to be a good dojo or good university, and the kids are climbing out the windows trying to get away. No, they've got to go up at 7 in the morning and go to judo, and they're getting battered lumps out. And they're on the mat, and it's like, I don't want to be here. They're running away to school.
That's happened, yeah. I've heard
climbing
that
out windows and trying to get away from stuff. That's quite funny.
That is pretty funny. It's a shame as well, though.
Well, we can move on, and I was going to maybe ask you if you want to talk about it. Obviously, you don't need to, but you obviously mentioned you had a stroke and also cancer and things like that. So I just wanted to ask you, what is it like? How do you feel about coming back from that and still being able to run a judo club and you're learning a new martial art jiu-jitsu? Like, that's amazing to come back from that and take up a new jiu-jitsu, like even, new things.
So I probably had to find a different way to teach because I'm not as physically able as I was before, and even my speech. I mean, you probably don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I need to think about the words as they come out of my mouth, because my speech has been impacted a bit as well. And obviously I can't move, I can't lie on my back and put my foot in their tummy and throw somebody right over like Tom and Agger, or do like Uchimata with one leg up in there, like I think in wrestling they call it an inner cleek.
Yeah.
So sometimes I've got to use the kids to say, this is what you're doing, I've got to get them to demonstrate things, or just learn how to do it in a different way.
Yeah.
Because before I'd go, do this, do that, but now I was like, well, I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah.
I can't physically show this, and I don't know if any of the kids show this, so I need to kind of think, well, how am I going to show it?
So have you kind of had to adapt then to a more explanation rather than physical demonstration? Like you've had to find creative ways to explain how to do things, or?
I don't know if they've been creative or not. I've just had to find a way and how to get the message across, or whatever I'm teaching. And then I was doing something the other day when I was skipping, and I was using my feet, and I've got a problem still with walking. I think you call it your gait. When I'm walking, I don't have the foot placement, so when I do foot sweeps, I don't. See, like you kick a ball against the wall, I can't kick it. It just goes away because I don't kick it in the right place. So I'm not accurate enough with my feet. So when I was doing this thing the other day, the kids were like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. So I'm moving about, and I just managed to do it no more. But actually, at one point, I was like, I'm going to fail in this. So I was putting myself under pressure. But if I couldn't do it, I was having to explain to some of the kids how to do it and get them to do it for me. Just by you said, by talking them through it. So it's quite challenging at times, but you've just got to think about it and obviously who you're using as well. And if the kids are ready for what you're doing.
Yeah, choose your demonstrators wisely, basically.
Yeah, I think a lot of people as well think that you can't have a good coach if they can't do everything. Like, for example, you can't be a good footballer if you can't score a goal, like football coach. But you can be a great coach. I mean, even if you're not physically capable. I mean, I think even if you're, for example, an 80-year-old man, doesn't mean you can't teach martial arts. Because you've been there and done that, whether you've gone through what you've gone through, or whether you're an older person or you're just not phically capable. Doesn't mean you've not got the knowledge.
My coach was, I don't think was as good a judo player as me. Never won the tournaments that I won when I was younger. And the kids that I've taught in my club, I've never won the British Championships, but I've had about, 10, 20 kids that won the British Championships. So it just shows you they can teach to a higher level and bring them through. The secret is just turning up every week and just training and getting some good instructors. Just turn up, just be relentless. Just turn up every week and keep going. Just get through the bad times. You do get bad times.
Well, every sport, everybody will go through a low point or a slouch or whatever. And like you're saying, like if you think of 99% of world champions in any sport in the world, their coach probably wasn't a world champion at that sport. Some obviously exceptions, or there was some, they might have still been a really great high level player, but most of them wouldn't have reached quite the level that their athlete has. But their athlete couldn't just down tools the next day and then become just as good a coach all of a sudden as well. So everyone needs a coach.
A great player in any sport does not make a great coach, and that's been proved again and again. Because usually what happens in judo is somebody gets a certain level and they're competing, they've trained all their life, and they decide they're retiring, and then they get sidelined in a judo coaching position, and they're absolutely rotten. But they're just there for years and years and years and years and years, because it's like, oh, what do you know? What are you talking about? You never fought the Olympics. I know that, but actually you're not that good at what you're doing. Coaching, you might have been to the Olympics, but that's maybe because you do something a little bit different, and actually try to coach you done to other people just need sometimes work because it works for you, but it doesn't mean to say it works for everybody else. Everyone's different, and that's what you need to find. You need to find everybody's kind of groove and how they work.
Yeah, there's a lot of skills to coaching and teaching in general. That there's a lot of skill to it, and people don't realise that you can't just go in front of somebody and say, "This is how you do that." On you go, and then 10 minutes later they'll do it perfectly, and you're like, "Yes, right, let's move on." Like that's not how it works, obviously. So even if you've just retired, you could as an athlete. You could still be able to do a move in judo, for example, perfectly, right? And maybe an older coach can't do that perfectly on his own, but your kids might not learn from you doing it perfectly because they're not going to do it perfectly on their first try. So if you just show them how to do it perfectly over and over, and you don't try it new with them, but the older coach has maybe not done it as a high level as an athlete, is actually working with them directly and showing them on their body how they're supposed to move and all that, then, it is interesting because there's a lot of people that think they'll become a coach automatically as soon as they retire because they were a really good player at any sport, and half of them end up being rubbish, like you said. So it just depends. But
it's the opposite of what I was saying. Because I was saying you don't have to be a good player to be a good coach, but then also a good player doesn't necessarily make a good coach either. So, and it's not that kind of trajectory of, oh, you start off here, you're an Olympic athlete, and then you become a coach. That's not how it works all the time.
Yeah.
Not, that's often not how it works. So
Don't get me wrong, sometimes it works. Sometimes it works.
Oh yeah,
brilliantly.
sometimes aye.
Aye.
I mean, obviously, you can't be we're saying that in the opposite way. You can't be completely useless at something and then be a great coach. You still need to be good to an extent, but you don't necessarily need to be the best in the world or the highest level ever to be one of the best coaches in the world necessarily. But obviously, you can't just be like, I couldn't just go tomorrow to a jiu-jitsu club, I've never done it, and go, right, I've been a coach and a teacher before, I'll just jump in and do it.
You need to technically know what's about.
Yeah.
You don't have to. But you need to technically know what it is. You can't go and teach judo or jiu-jitsu or some wrestling if you don't know the rules. You've got to know the rules.
Yeah.
You've got to know the technical components. It's like playing football, but you're running out with a stick and hit the ball with.
Yeah.
How does that work?
I know. It's funny. But I just wanted to say as well that it's really impressive, genuinely, that you obviously went through all that and you've came back and started your own thing again and you're doing well and you even started new martial arts and that. It's just really impressive. So, well done.
It's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like you're only here once, so it's like, I feel as if I found something new that I'm doing, that I quite enjoy doing it, and it's a different, like, I feel like a wee bit with judo, it's a lot, quite political. There's like, it's because it's come back, I think people try to qualify for this and they want to be this coach here and don't train at this club, train at that club, but my good jiu-jitsu, it's like, I'm away for that. I'm just here and I'm just running a wee club on my own, and there's no politics. It's just like, you get the kids to join the governing body, whereas they do the judo, it's just like it grows arms and legs, and you're travelling about and you're doing stuff, you're going to competition, but you just go there once a week, twice a week and do a bit of training, and that's it, you just move on. So it's a lot easier.
Yeah, we're finishing up now, I suppose, because we're getting near the hour mark, so I think there's one thing we kind of should ask that a lot of people would probably want to know, is that we can't not ask, I suppose, as somebody who's done so many martial arts, what you think would be, let's not say the best, but let's say, what do you think would be, I'm trying not to insult anyone else here, what do you basically, you've got a martial art and a big arena for a fight to, not the death, we're not going that far, a fight, right, any way you want, what martial art do you think would win if they had to stick to one discipline?
I think the most effective martial art is Japanese Jiu-jitsu. But on the other hand, judo, the competition, the level, there's that many countries doing it, that the athletes that win are superhuman because they're training that much. So when you do the Japanese jiu-jitsu, the fact there's no sparring and there's no competition, it's kind of like, it's just normal guys that do it. There's less injuries as well, but the judo's that competitive and it's that, like, everybody's trying to improve and get stronger and fitter and faster all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that would win, but I think the Japanese jiu-jitsu in my head is the thing that people would do.
So you say Japanese jiu-jitsu is like the best on paper, but the caliber of athletes in judo is probably better, that they would win just because of the athlete, not this discipline. Not win. They might win because the sort of competitiveness of judo is so much higher in the world, but Japanese jiu-jitsu on paper, you would say, is the most kind of cutthroat, I guess. Yeah. Not Krav Maga.
No, I think they would win if they had full samurai.
As far as talking to somebody, he knows the people in Mossad over in Israel, and the Krav Maga seems to me it's like the McDonald's, their clubs open up everywhere. And the guys that are doing Krav Maga, I mean, it was actually one of my instructors years ago who my club in Largs shut down for because the place we got done up, and then they started a judo club up in this little wee centre. So they stole all my players and opened up the club up. And so I lost my club in Largs. So this, I'm not mentioning the girl's name. But then I heard that her and her son were doing a Krav Maga course. I think they'd done a Krav Maga course for 6 weeks. And they're working as instructors. And I'm like, how can you? Yeah. I wouldn't even start a senior class in Largs at the time because they weren't that good. They were happy enough for me taking kids, but actually for them taking on adults, I thought, well, they're going to, I don't think they're that level yet. So if they're just dealing with young kids, that's fair enough. But then they're just a 6 week course to Krav Maga, they're teaching that. I was like, how does that work? They're teaching people how to take guns off people.
Yeah.
After 6 weeks.
6 weeks. That's a catch the knife with your throat situation. Yeah. That's just dodge the bullet, it's easy. You just need to look at how he's lifting it and then just guess.
Just tell him no.
I just say no. He can't shoot you. Yeah, well, there you go then. Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, that's really interesting because I genuinely didn't really think about Japanese Jiu-Jitsu that much until we started talking to each other again. And like I said, what we were saying earlier, that there's a lot of people that probably don't even really know that it, not that it exists, but sort of, they probably just think it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu basically. So I think we've established then that you should probably look into Japanese Jiu-Jitsu if you're looking to get into martial arts, or Judo, as for the sporting side, or sumo wrestling, just because again Scott will want us to say that, so sumo wrestling as well. Anyway,
Do you want to tell us where the actual clubs are?
yeah, you can tell us where your clubs are.
So I've got a judo club in Strathblane. It's all kids clubs. Strathblane, Scots and Leisure Centre, Newton Mearns, where else? Mulgai Community Centre, and I've got a jiu-jitsu club up in the Allender Leisure Centre, and I've got another judo club up in Bridgeton in the Hybrid Fight Academy. The lad does sambo wrestling. So that's the clubs I've got. In general, if you want to do jiu-jitsu, I think there's one other club in the west of Scotland, but I need to travel up to Perth because I don't know how good the club is in another place in Glasgow. Right. But the guy that teaches me up in Perth seems like he's the main guy, and I think I had to go up and meet him to actually do my co-coaching thing, because he says there's a lot of people come up and say they can do this and they do that. Actually, when you meet someone like they can't do much. So I've had to go through a kind of coaching process with him to actually learn the syllabus so that I can teach it. Yeah. No, rather than just saying, it's not like you just thought, oh, that's fine, you just come and work for us now. You actually have had to go through. I'm not getting any favours done for me. I'm really getting fast tracked, but I've got the next 2 weeks. There's a lad coming across from Spain, and he's going to do my assessment for my coaching. So it's not like he's doing it because he knows me. Yeah. Actually, somebody that's independent is coming to do it. So I've got a Spanish guy who's a sixth dan coming over to do an assessment for my coaching.
Wow.
In a couple of weeks' time, so I hope I pass that.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you've got enough good track record, so yeah, that's nice. Is your mic working, or is that what the?
No, yeah, it's fine. It's just it was getting slightly quieter, but we're fine. We're fine. Don't worry about it. But yeah, when you already had the mic. Cool. Have you got a website or anything that you want to mention?
Brian Long's Martial Arts Academy.
Brian Long's Martial Arts Academy.co.uk. Cool. So if you are interested,
Facebook as well.
Yeah, Facebook.
It's Brian Long School of Sport. Brian Long School of Judo.
School of Judo, right.
And the Jiu-Jitsu Club is called the Allender Jiu-Jitsu Club.
Right, okay. There you go then. And then Clancy of Scotland and Coatbridge. Just again, don't want to get into trouble here by the Scot. But yeah, so
he'll have his time.
He'll have his time, yeah, he'll have his time to do it. But yeah, I think then we're ready to wrap up. Unless have you got any more questions, or you've got one?
No more questions other than just a quick question about you and Joe. You guys are looking quite fly. Is there anywhere a guy like me could get some nice merchandise like this?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Sorry, Brian. You'll need to wait while we plug ourselves here. TubbyFit merch is available for sale. We've sold them. We've always sold them, to be fair, but we've got a bit bad recently with letting people know that. So on the last 2 podcasts as well, the last 3 podcasts, we've always wore TubbyFit every time, and all of what we wear, all of what we wear is for sale, and you can just message us on Instagram at TubbyFit, and we will sort you out. We are getting a website soon, but that's not up yet. But look out for that as well. It'll be TubbyFit.com, and yeah, that's our self plug shamelessly done. So thanks very much, Cameron, for reminding us. Yeah. Right, yeah, so thanks very much then for coming on, mate. It was good to catch up with you after so long as well.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a shame we didn't have any here.
It's a shame we didn't have any.
Oh yeah, maybe that's a good idea.
Yeah.
On
the way back, yeah. Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, as well. And
yeah, cheers. I just want to say, really admirable that you've come back after what happened to you as well. I've got much respect for that. So yeah, and I've had a lot of fun with this one. So thanks very much. Really interesting.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
No problem.
Cheers.
Cheers, lads. Thanks very much.